Another day in the office. Oh, I got some emails. Ah! I asked the TF2 community for their hottest takes about, well, the game Team Fortress 2, and I got an overwhelming amount of replies, over 1,000, that I will go over now. The top comment on this post is, phlog is balanced unless there is a fucking medic with Uber. And honestly, when the weapon is taken as itself with no other factors, yeah, I'd say the phlog is balanced. Trading Pyro's Air Blast, their most useful utility, for on-demand crits, in my eyes, is a fair trade-off. However, when we start talking about the other weapons we can pair with it, that's where it gets tricky. My solution to this would be to make it so that way the phlog can only charge with oomph itself. But hey, I'm not a game dev. Okay, I could get behind this one. The biggest problem with TF2 is the horrendous new player experience, and I actually totally agree. Like you mentioned, there is an incomplete tutorial beyond terrible default settings, and an overwhelming amount of weapons and maps, and a skilled player base that will wipe the floor with players who haven't put in a couple hundred hours. And to be honest, I had a couple people start playing recently, and I forgot how exciting and confusing TF2 was for me at the start as well. However, TF2 still gets new players, but I'm sure a lot of them are filtered through this incomplete new player experience and getting pub stomped. I was actually working on a video that was a quick beginner's guide to TF2, like only 7 to 10 minutes long. So let me know if that's something you guys would want to see. Okay, the first hot take of the video. The Classic is a better spy counter than the Razorback because, quote, assuming you have a mild sense of awareness, just 180 and blast that baguette fucker into a cloud of crumbs. Even though the Classic was featured in my 10 worst weapons video, I will admit that it definitely has its use cases. However, better than denying the spy than the Razorback? Maybe? I will say denying a spy with the Classic takes more skill, while the Razorback is quote-unquote foolproof. Ooh, this one's interesting. Most people complaining about certain classes do not know how to face them. And I would agree for the most part with this sentiment. I think people complaining about, like, for example, Spy, definitely need to just simply learn how to counter him. Because in all honesty, Spy is without a doubt the weakest class, and there is so much you can do against him. And the Sniper is definitely brought up in this conversation, but I'll save that for later. Okay, y'all eventually have to make me not agree with you. But the fact that TF2 hasn't gotten balance changes or new weapons in years forces people to use more unconventional styles of gameplay that honestly enhance this game in a much more fun way. Yeah, I think I'd have to agree with that. I've always said to people who are burnt out on TF2 to play with a class or weapon they don't play often, and this is a tried and true method. I mean, I almost never played Soldier, and then it became my second most played class, and I've fallen in love with direct hits and market gardening. Okay, the solution to fixing casual mode should be to fix the actual issues instead of abolishing it in favor of quick play. I think this works to an extent, and I absolutely agree with you. Obviously, casual is very flawed. However, what's more likely? Valve reverting quick play or fixing casual? I think either could work. Sniper should be the weakest class in the game at a melee range. I agree entirely. I definitely think the Girardi Bushwalker combo is something that needs to be addressed, and the decision this person mentioned to nerf his melee damage closer to the scouts is a necessary change for the lifespan of the game and will stop Sniper from being such a powerhouse. I'm glad this game doesn't get proper updates anymore because there's less of a chance that some of your guys' balance suggestions get implemented into this game. Yeah, I mean, after seeing some people's opinions on how to balance the game, I would have to agree. Not that everybody has a bad way to balance it. Especially with the Meet Your Match update and what that brought, I honestly think TF2 doesn't need another update. In fact, I would argue that the game not constantly getting changed like its modern counterparts is what keeps people coming back. Sometimes you just need the comfort and familiarity that is TF2. There is no bad heavy weapon. Okay, buddy, what is this? That's the Hulong Heater. That's a bad weapon. Medic is a difficult class to play. Stop saying it's easy. I mean, I have never met a single player that says Medic is easy, but if people really do say that, I would have to disagree entirely. The two most important things in TF2 are your positioning and your aim, and these are only things that you can develop over time playing the game. While the medic doesn't have to do a whole lot in the aiming department besides shooting his crossbow, how you position yourself as a medic takes a lot of thought that your average casual medic doesn't put into it. Some rush in blindly and wonder why they got picked off and then switch back to their main. So to my medic mains out there, coming from an NG main, I appreciate every single one of them. PL Enclosure is the best map of the game, ignore my profile picture. Yeah man, I might say you're a little biased in this considering you are a literal T-Rex. Hey, how did you type? Unusuals are fucking ugly, useless, and actually ruin TF2's art style, not hats. I would definitely say some unusuals definitely break the game's style, however, does it matter? I mean, they might be the only reason TF2 servers are still up with millions of dollars of revenue coming in from unboxings. And I would even argue that Gens 1 through 3 respect the art style extremely well. And come on, there's mods to disable it if it bothers you that much. Random crits are low-key funny as fuck. While I agree to an extent, I have never seen someone die to a random crit and laugh. Would love to be proven wrong though. I wish the game would have been designed so that way Engineer can buff teammates, not the Soldier. I think Soldier's buffs are definitely the best thing you can pick on him in any situation generally, and giving Engineer a secondary that can provide a similar effect wouldn't be a quote-unquote bad idea, but Soldier is way more equipped to charge headfirst into battle than Engineer, so I would have to disagree. Okay, we're at the sniper part. Sniper isn't overpowered, just annoying to go up against due to most maps being poorly made around him. I would have to say what makes TF2 such a great game in the first place is 90% of the time when you die, it feels like you deserved it, and you can come to a conclusion about how to avoid that scenario next time you play. Sniper kinda eliminates this because of his ability to theoretically lock down an entire area, especially when most players just want to go places without the fear of being insta-killed from halfway across the map with next to no way to counter it. I do think a rework definitely needs to happen to Sniper, so let me know if that's a video you guys are interested in seeing. Quick Fix is not bad, you just can't use it. It's true, while its Uber alternative is arguably the weakest in the game, its quick healing cannot go underestimated in group pushes. Pastime is one of the best modes, and the game having 0 players is a big shame. I mean, there's a reason for that. Here's a hot take from a spy main. Trick stabs fucking suck. I mean, have you ever seen Stabby Stabby play? I mean, I think they can be pretty useful. Fast Scout is not only viable, it's good. Okay, when heavy shotguns are used in sync with his minigun, I genuinely think it's not a bad combo. I've come around on that. I see the usefulness and utility in it, believe me, I do. I just think trading this big sustained damage dealer for close quarters burst damage dealer should come with a different playstyle approach to playing heavy. Payload is overrated. Yeah, okay, big brother, and 2 + 2 = 5. The people who try to be friendly should be killed as well. While I do not understand the mindset of friendly players, as I personally joined TF2 to play the shooting game, you can also just ignore them. However, if they get in the way and then complain, I can see where the general disdain comes from. Demoknight ruins the game atmosphere and balance. I am genuinely confused how. I mean, did you watch one Solar Light video and come to this conclusion? Ubersaw is not the quote-unquote default medic melee. Solemn Vow is more useful. I mean, I would argue that the Solemn Vow does not have more usefulness than the Ubersaw, like in zero way. Getting 25% Uber for one melee hit is way better than seeing the enemy health, as most experienced players understand how much health each class should have based on inferencing skills, which is what I think makes the game so fun. God does not like TF2. I mean, I talked to him and he said he liked it, so now what? Also, he's in the comics, so Pyro is a bad class. I mean, I think they definitely are one of the weaker classes in the game, but hey, just like every class, they can be pretty lethal in the right hands. Kitstatsky Kick is overrated. I think Man Aerobics is the better type. Listen, don't disrespect Ultraman. People hit the Kitstatsky IRL, and I can't say I've ever seen that for the Man Aerobics. The loose cannon is a fundamentally flawed weapon and is unsalvageable in its concept. How do you even come to this conclusion? Ooh, rocket jumping is super overhyped. I don't think it's practical in a vast majority of situations, as it's better to hunker down with your team and use a banner or shotgun than taking the gunboats. While I think rocket jumping can open new and better opportunities to a soldier, I have to admit that the banners definitely provide more utility to your team as a whole. However, the gunboats definitely have their time and place, and I would say situationally they are better than the shotguns. The art style died the moment the first cosmetics were added. Okay, genuinely, the controversial take, I do not care about the game's art style. That ship sailed long ago, and while I definitely want good cosmetics that match the game's art style, the goofier ones definitely have a place and market in the game. The direct hit is direct bullshit. Despite the good pun, I would argue that it's one of the most balanced weapons in the game. And coming from a fellow engineer main, just learn to fight against it, man. Engineer has the tools. We're back to Demoknight. Demoknight is not a subclass. Mechanically, he has nothing to do with Demoman and should have been made a separate class altogether. His existence completely screws over regular demo melee options, as you can't give normal Demoman a strong melee option without considering how it affects Demoknight. I think Demoman definitely has strong melee options. The bottle is perfectly fine for him, and making Demoknight a separate class with a whole new personality and character would just take more away from Demoman, and Hybrid Knight could be pretty fun. Okay, this guy gave me a speed round, so speed round! The kunai is not overpowered at all, it is only strong against bad teams. Most of the frustrations with the kunai are just complaints about the dead ringer, which also isn't overpowered either, just not fun to fight against. Yeah, 70 health is pretty low, and if you can catch them before you stab, you're chilling, and it makes you pretty vulnerable. And I would argue that where a lot of complaints with the dead ringer come from is exactly what you talk about not being fun to fight against, which comes to the conclusion of most people thinking it's overpowered. There hasn't been a good series of cosmetic unusual effects since 2015. Nah man, some of the new ones are pretty great and I definitely buy. The most commonly used paints, pink, green, black, and white, are all extremely ugly and hard to work with. I agree entirely, some of them are too saturated and pretty hard to look at. The TF2 community needs to learn to be more negative. I'm not saying be rude or anything like that, but I find sometimes we can be so positive it's suffocating and blocks up real criticisms of the game. I don't know man, I think it kind of depends on the community you go to. Bootlegger over the wee booties any day. Nah man, but it's Balenciaga though. It's laughable how many weapons are banned in competitive 6s and Highlanders. At least 1/3 of them don't deserve to be banned and players should just learn to adapt to each weapon. Seriously, why is the detonator and Pretty Boy's pocket pistol banned? I don't know anything about comps, so I'm just going to assume they know more than me and they probably have explanations for it. Pyro is banned. I mean, I think Pyro could be anything, really, maybe not even human. Why would you blindly assume something when it's left up to Valve themselves? Pyro could even be a monster. We don't know. The Pomson can be quite good, especially on maps with narrow walkways. Yeah, and putting my fingers up my butt is viable too, but I don't do it because guess what? I use them to eat. Upward is a bad map. Has a few glitches and it's flawed? Yeah. Bad? Far from it. I think it's genuinely really well designed, with well thought out chokes and advantages for every team to take advantage of. The Sandwich is Heavy's weakest secondary, since without a shotgun he is defenseless. I mean, I wouldn't describe as the 300 health minigun wielding fat muscular Russian man as defenseless, but you know, whatever. Crazy hot take, but there honestly aren't enough classes. No! Please, I do not want more classes. The game is perfectly fine. What are you talking about? Engineer is overpowered. I'm sorry, how? And have you ever played Engineer or the 8 other classes that can counter him if played right? Having more than one character in the same team is dumb. I don't know, man. I think having 2 soldiers and 2 demomen isn't going to throw off the entire balance of the team, nor is having 2 spies. And class stacking can be pretty fun on occasion. TF2 is not the original hero shooter, nor is it a hero shooter at all. Do people even play this game or know about it? Okay, 6v6 should be the standard mode. No, not at all. 12v12 has its moments and can be pretty fun, and 6v6 has its own community, time, and place. This would be an absurd change. Pyro offers nothing of value to the game, and it would be better off without him. Okay, let me entertain this silly idea. Pyro has a very important role in the game's balance. They are an attack class with support options like putting out teammates and reflecting projectiles. I question why you would say this as a medic, because Pyros are your best friend, they're the best spy checkers. In fact, in a casual lobby, they're going to try and protect you. I also think Pyro as a character is great, and the game is better with them in it. Love you, Pyro. Heavy should have won meat versus match. No, Heavy is in a fine, balanced state, and Pyro was mechanically broken. The right choice was made. Stock minigun is better than Thompson. Yeah, go watch this video, buddy. There's nothing wrong with the Vaccinator. If you can't fight against it, maybe you kind of deserve to die. I mean, man, this is a weapon that does need a serious nerf. Being able to buff against every type of damage so quickly and universally is fundamentally broken. And I think a good nerf to change it was so that way when one status is equipped, you become more vulnerable to the others. The direct hit is a crutch. I mean, it takes a lot more skill to use than stock, so I have no idea what you mean. TF2 would be better if the Engineer had never existed. Okay, but then we wouldn't have Uncle Dane, and trust me, I've seen that timeline where he never uploaded, and it's not good. Engineer's strongest building is the Teleporter. Fully agree. Sentries get kills, dispensers save lives, teleporters save games. The Wrangler is fine. Okay, yeah, and so is the Vaccinator, and the phlog, and the Scorch Shot, and the Machina, and the Scorch Shot is a good and somewhat balanced weapon while still providing some mobility that the Detonator provides. What mobility does the Scorch Shot provide? And calling the Scorch Shot balanced is... No, I'm moving on. I think all Demoman shields should have their charge cancelled upon taking damage. I mean, this would effectively make Demoknight useless, as you would never be able to go anywhere unless you were deceivingly stealthy. I use the pumps in 6000 and Righteous Bison because it's laser guns. I mean, that's a statement, not an opinion, man. Badwater and Upward are the most overrated C-tier maps in the entire game. When I try and think about what makes a map good, I can't really pin it down despite how many hours I have, so I just kind of go off of whether I like it or not. And I actually think Upward and Badwater are perfectly rated. They're genuinely some of the best well thought out maps on TF2, and I find myself playing on them a lot. However, if you don't like a map, that's not going to be something I fight over. I think the Candy Cane is Scout's best melee, by the fact it rewards dodging skills by the player and punishes Scouts with bad movement. So it could also work as a teaching tool by inciting the player to dodge to more. While I agree that a vulnerability does promote better gameplay, purposely nerfing yourself with a health pack dropped on kill and making most things be able to one-shot you has never made a whole lot of sense to me. I genuinely only play Capture the Flag on 2-4. Good for you. TF2 characters are sexier than Overwatch characters? Sure. Your Eternal Reward is the best knife. While I can see the utility of it, I definitely think it is Spy's weakest option. I wouldn't call it bad, I would just think it's eh? Vote kicking people for being bigoted is totally valid. I agree entirely. I think this also stems in with racism as well. We shouldn't accept any kind of targeted hate in the TF2 world, and I'm always forgetting the bad actors out. However, trash talk all the fuck you want, I think that is just a part of the game. One sentence. Dust Bowl is good. I like Dust Bowl. I think the bad parts of it make it fun, kind of like 2-4. Scout's speed should be nerfed. Yeah, and I think we should give Heavy a water gun instead of a minigun. NG should have gotten the Razorback. Hot take, the Razorback shouldn't exist! Much less unengineered. Denying a stab for the trade-off of no overkill is the dumbest trade of the century, and it takes no skill to use. I think they should stop doing community updates. Seriously, so many terrible cosmetics, effects, and maps. It's too much. They need to start doing map rotations or something if they're going to add so many per year. I would say the updates we get are important for maintaining the revenue of the game and keeping the servers up. And so what if we get a couple of shitty cosmetics, no one's telling you to use them. And yeah, I think a map rotation would be nice and a good addition, but just pick the maps you already play. The Ubershot isn't the best option for Medic, it brings you to stupid decisions. Obviously, using any weapon in the improper context will properly reward or punish the player because of their actions. I think the Ubersaw does make medics melee hungry, and I think most of them would benefit from a more passive playstyle. TF2 is the reason in-game microtransactions are a plague in gaming today. I actually fully agree with that. However, TF2 is definitely the better of the bad actors, and no content or advantages are locked behind it, and everyone enjoys a good unboxing on occasion. I think the Backburner needs to have an extreme motto rework. In the middle of a fight, it is very different to differentiate from stock, and all the other flamethrowers are easily identified except for the Backburner. I think analyzing matchups and 1v1s is what makes TF2 so fun, and I will admit it is very hard to differentiate the Backburner, often making you turn your back and get punished for it. I can't imagine anyone would be against this except Backburner main pyros, and I think it would be a good change. I think the engineer should have 130 HP by default. I feel like he dies too easily. I mean, sure. 5 HP definitely wouldn't change much, so I just question if this is necessary. TF2 is one of the few online multiplayer games in existence that stays fun for a seriously long time for a large amount of the player base. Other online multiplayer games, especially new ones, have to implement an engagement strategy like a battle pass to keep their players engaged, because each match is too similar to stay fun for very long. TF2 is great because there are countless elements that are each mixed up and served to you each game, and no game feels the exact same gameplay. I fully agree. There's a reason TF2 has lived this long and kept such a dedicated user base despite everything. I think the reasons you listed were great, and while I do take breaks from TF2, I always come back for the reasons you listed. Pyro needs to have an overheat mechanic on his flamethrower, so he can't just always WM1 until his tank is empty. I think a Pyro running at you with WM1ing takes little to no skill to deal with, so I don't know, man, it could. The Overdose is a okay side grade for Medic. Yeah, I think it could be situationally good and has its uses. However, the crossbow is so powerful, I question what you would be better off running and what takes more skill. Each class is equally fun and viable, yes, and it depends on the player's knowledge. That slow-moving scout is not a spy. That sounds like something a spy would say. Babyface's blaster is a great scout primary. I like the speed. One of the best things you can do in TF2 as general advice to get better is to be unpredictable. And suddenly getting faster for every bit of damage you do and getting rid of your double jump, yeah, I'd say that scout would make you very unpredictable. I like this weapon. I'd absolutely rail scout. Hey man, you do you. Man vs. Machine needs an update real quick. It's been years. I have news for you, man. TF2 would have been better off if it never went free-to-play. No, TF2 going free-to-play revolutionized the modern gaming scene and made others follow in their steps, and increased the player count tenfold. The game probably wouldn't be alive if it didn't. Spy can get it. As a straight man, I don't agree, but I can see the vision. The soldier is pretty hot. He can take me away. Nope, I'm done. Listen, I can get Spy to an extent. Like, I can understand that to an extent. When we start talking about, like, lead poison patriots, nope, that's where I draw the line. I'm done.